Okay, what's going on? We're live. So this is our new streaming platform. We're just testing this out to see what's popping. There we go. So we're here. Hey.
It's a little laggy.
Copy link. So what's going on, everyone? I am Tyse, and this is Alex Gray. It's been a while since we've done a live broadcast, and we just wanted to check in with you guys, see how everyone's doing, and talk about a few things that have kind of been in the what do you call it? I guess in the
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Tired.
Okay, so we have a few things that we want to talk about. One being the cancel culture that's recently been very prevalent. So what are some of the things that you've been noticing? Because we've been talking a lot behind the scenes, and a lot of things have transpired in the last couple of months since we've last been live. I mean, last time we were on, it was before the elections, right? And now that the elections have finished. Okay, so you guys have to bear with us. This is a new platform for us, and we're really just making sure that we have everything lined up so that we can produce better shows for you guys. So
I'm cold.
Are you cold? Deal with it. If you don't like it, why don't you
get out the kitchen?
Yeah, if you don't like the cold, get out of the igloo.
Oh.
So let's see. I'm just gonna promote the link. So what's going on in your world? What's been happening since the last time we were live?
Personally, I guess I've been very vocal a lot more. Just stating my opinions, especially on Facebook.
Yeah.
Obviously, I feel like in the last month there's been like a huge acceleration with the cancel culture.
Yeah.
Where things like people are just holding people accountable left, right, and center when they can't even hold themselves accountable in regular life. But for some reason,
virtue signaling.
Yeah, it's it's all about the control. It's all about censorship. It's about pretending that you care. That's just the basis of it for me. And honestly, there's way more important things, like how some people don't even have jobs still, but for some reason, Pepe Le Pew is
the highlight.
What's the fucking highlight? Excuse my language. It's a highlight. You know, it doesn't make sense. Like,
where do you think it's coming from all of a sudden? Like, why all of a sudden do you think it's a distraction?
Do I think it from what though?
Just from what we should be really focusing on?
I think it is. I don't. What was the catalyst though? I'm trying to think of was it Gina Carano? Was the catalyst? I don't know what that one catalyst was. That was for some reason things are just like being canceled left, right, and center. But for some reason, the last month, there's been like a whole bunch of we're holding this person accountable. We're holding that person accountable today. Like I just don't know where it's coming from, and nor do I know where it's going, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's most definitely a distraction, because how some of you jobless, but you're focused on Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
Like, work on cleaning your own house before you start trying to clean the house of society.
Right.
That's my take on it, because it's not important. Canceling Pepe Le Pew is not important.
It's not. Yeah.
It's just not important. Whether to feel how you feel about the character. But canceling the whole movement, there's no need for it.
Right.
You need to focus on other things.
Right.
Right? It's quite irritating.
What do you think people should be focusing their energy on?
Maybe how the government is handling, especially here in Canada, how they're handling the pandemic, for example. The pandemic. Whatever people want to call it. At the end of the day, people have no jobs, or businesses are closed. The airline industry is a mess.
Yeah.
Canadian aviation, people haven't flown since last year, March.
Or people who have been flying is not as much.
Not as much. Yeah. And you mean to tell me that your priority is freaking canceling Gina Carano? Like, make it make sense. who cares? Like, stop caring about what celebrities and cartoons are doing and start talking about your government, because people are very docile right now. I think it's because they haven't been working for a year. They just stopped caring.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, this is the situation, and that's it. There's nothing we can do.
Right.
Well, there are people who are doing things, whether you agree with their tactics or not. People are walking around maskless. People are opening their businesses.
Yeah.
Despite what you may think of that Adam's barbecue place, whatever.
Right.
But the fact is, people are doing something, right? There are places that have maskless policies, right? Because the mandate isn't really a law. It's just, it's
like a preference.
It's a, yeah.
It's all about languaging.
It's language.
Yeah.
It's 100% language, but we're at a way of thinking that is way deeper, way a 5D level of thinking.
Yeah. And
people think only on the surface. They don't think about how things are worded.
Right.
They don't think about that specific thing, because to them it's non-essential to even think about that.
Right.
You know, or their mind isn't there yet. They can't think like that.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to be, demeaning. It's just, that's just the truth. Some people are very surface level with how they think of things.
Right.
They don't think things through. They're not critical.
So do you find that a lot of, like, because I know before it was a lot of, there was a lot of division, right? We had, like, it was a race divide, there was a gender divide, there was all this divide, political divide. Do you find now more people are becoming, more conservatives are coming out, especially those that, are what most people would believe, because they're Black, that they automatically fall into the category of liberal, or they fall into the category of, like the Biden-Harris side of things. But do you find a lot of more conservatives are becoming more prevalent?
I think people are becoming more conservative, period.
Yeah.
At least people are speaking out about how they just don't care about racial divide, political divide, all those divides. Like myself, I realize I'm a little bit more right-leaning. It depends on the topics, but for the most part, I'm pretty right-leaning on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But then there's the other things that I'm pretty left-leaning, because at the end of the day, we all have a liberal aspect to how we see things, because we do want things in society to change.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like, I just think that at the end of the day, conservatives, I don't really know, because I don't pay attention to that. But all I can say is that people, I think, are speaking out about how they don't care about divides.
Right.
They care about coming. They're the people who pretend.
Yeah.
How you gonna play that now?
Yeah.
No, I think there are people who pretend that they don't care about the divide.
Yeah.
They care about unity.
Yeah.
We know who those people categorize. We can say that. We've talked behind the scenes of what we truly think.
Right.
But I think there's the people who pretend that they care just for the virtual signaling aspect of it. And then there's the people who really legitimately just don't care, right? They don't care what your skin color is. They care about your character, right? And I think that's happening more, despite what the noise is going on right now. But I think that's because if I was able to wake up to certain things, then I'm pretty sure other people have too.
So what was your awakening? Like, what was it that was like your aha moment?
I think seeing you talk. No, to be honest, because like, no, because for me, it was a character switch, and I was like, what's going on? And I felt like it was very.
You felt
fun.
that I switched my character?
Not your character, but it was more.
Or did you think I had a? Did you assume that I had a different a political view? Or
and I didn't know. I assumed you had whatever view it was. Right? Say I felt like you were more left-leaning on certain things. Yeah. So that's what I assumed. Right? And that's what assumptions, unfortunately, they don't give you the full picture, right?
Right.
But then when I saw that you were speaking out in particular ways, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I remember I just messaged and was like, listen, I don't care what people are saying. And I'm like, I really don't care what your political views are. I don't care. You're still my friend. Like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Right? You never been out here trying to harm me in any kind of way.
Right.
You were never disrespectful to me.
Right.
Right? So it just was like, I don't really care. Like, you have your own political views. And that's how I've always operated, right? Because I know people who were Trump supporters.
Yeah.
So I just don't care, right? So I lost track of what the original question was, but honestly,
like, what was your aha moment?
Oh, my aha moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that had a lot to do with it. We're just seeing you kind of not, I don't want to say switch up because like,
yeah, sorry. Continue.
It's okay. Yeah,
Keep
we're
talking.
playing around with this thing.
Yeah.
So I just don't care. The aha moment.
Yeah.
I think was you showing me that documentary.
The Fall of Cabal.
The Fall of Cabal.
Yeah.
And it's not even, you don't even have to believe everything that was in
the documentary.
Yeah. But it was like
enough information for you to come up with your own
my own conclusions and my own research to actually go out and see things for myself and see the consistencies in the inconsistencies. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just, for me, it was like a moment of the people that I always think are good are not probably good.
Yeah.
And the people that I always thought were bad were probably not always bad. And I sat and read, you know, executive, mind you, we're Canadian. I don't have to give a shit about American politics.
Yeah.
But I went through, you know, going through, you know, histories of Canadian prime ministers to reading Trump's executive orders. Yeah. You know, and that's the research I did. And then there are people who are lazy who don't want to do that.
So like
and stick to their guns.
Being a Black woman who for so many years you've been hearing like, you know, like Black people are oppressed or you should be oppressed. And then seeing other Black people who lean very conservative who have been saying, well, I'm not oppressed. How dare you tell me I'm oppressed? Like, what was that like for you transitioning from like, maybe, I don't know, maybe at one point you thought you were oppressed, or maybe you just agreed with that narrative?
Disagreed with it because I always felt like
you've heard it so many times.
I've heard it so many times that and based off of my own, I guess, treatment. Because even when I think about it now, and I've always had a job when I was 16, I've always had work available to me. Right. Hell, I even had work through nepotism at one point, right? And I got my first job through nepotism because of my mom, right? So it just, at the end of the day, I always had jobs available to me, whether it was given to me by my mom, or excuse me, or I went out and got it. Right. And a lot of it has to do with my character, who I was. Yeah. I don't know whether me being one particular career that I was, whether it was to fulfill a quota, because I was I was the only Black person actually in my class. Right. So whether it's to fulfill a quota, I don't care. I'm still working. So it didn't matter to me. I didn't really care. Right. I think that I understand when it comes to certain things like hair, you know, in certain environments. I think like, you know, the conversation of Black hair and where you're working in professional environments, what's professional, right? And I understand where the conversation with that goes and how that can lead into like racial bias and all that kind of stuff, you know? And at the end of the day, I see two sides now, more so because, you know, before I used to be like, you know, like, this is my hair, this is the way I can't help it. But then also you have to make it look, it has to look professional, right? It has to look clean and neat. But you can do certain hairstyles like braids and make them look clean and neat, right? But I digress. It just, for me as a Black person, I didn't even have the standing of, you know, I didn't really know many Black conservatives. Right. Or at least probably I knew some, but they didn't really outright know they were conservative nor really say, I'm conservative. Like I didn't really know many Black people around me who, despite, I think it's my family more so, like who don't really identify with anything political. They're very just hardworking people, and they never taught us to have our skin color be a factor in of who we should be. Right. Right. So, and that's just the principle I grew up on. Right. So I don't know. My mom told me a story about how when she came here in Canada in 1974, and she said she got into a fight with one white girl because the white girl called her a monkey. Wow. White girl called her a monkey. She said she beat her ass. Right. And she said the one thing that she really appreciated with her, she said coming to Canada wasn't the greatest, but it was also one of the best times she's ever had in the late 70s. Right. Because like there was a lot of racial shit that was going on. However, she said the one thing that she appreciated with her group of people that when she came from Jamaica was that they took no shit. Right. They took no shit. They didn't let their skin color be a factor in anything, regardless, and they took no shit. Right. And that's just the way it is. There's going to be ignorant people, but I refuse now to ever be told that my skin color is going to be a factor. in anything.
Yeah, because there's no laws or anything that's stopping you from doing what everyone else can, has access to.
There isn't anything, and again, it's with wording. People
Yeah.
don't think beyond that. There's nothing in law that says you Black people cannot do this. Right? There's nothing that says that, and that's just the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
We can talk about the ripple effects of racism that has happened, but we're in 2021.
Yeah.
Who and when is going to start breaking? Like, when are you going to start making choices that break cycles?
Yeah.
Because that all depends on you. And I don't take the excuse of, well, I grew up this way and I didn't know any better. Well, then now you know. So then start.
And when you know better, you do better.
You know better, you do better. It's one thing to know. It's another thing to know and not believe. So you just have to start believing in the fact that you are not in chains. Don't let anybody, no matter your skin color, tell you you're in chains.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Right? You are not in chains.
Yeah.
You are free. And I refuse to have anyone tell me that I'm free. What makes me more upset though is the Black people who look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they'll say things like, well, watch when you get pulled over. I'm like, okay, I've been pulled over. I'm like, no problem, sir.
Well, when I was in the States, we got pulled over and two of the people in the car were Black. And I panicked. This is like when I was naive and stupid. I was like, I panicked. Oh my God, they're gonna fucking kill us. They're gonna shoot us. And the cop was so nice. He was so nice.
But it shows you where
he was lecturing us like a father. He was like, "Are you crazy? Do you know how fast you're going on the highway? You're gonna kill some." I wasn't driving. I was a passenger. And I was just like, he's like, "Let this be a warning to you. Please stop driving so fast." And then he just let us go.
But it shows you two things: A, where your mind was at the time.
Yeah.
And also,
Want to put your headphones on?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Welcome to the FYF podcast.
Thank you.
Are you? Where are you go? What's going on there? Are you sleeping or?
I'm escaping from my children.
Oh, be careful! You don't want to get canceled for escaping your children.
They're with their dad. It's fine.
Oh, they're with their dad.
Thank you.
Reading Dr. Seuss and playing with Mr. Potato Head.
Oh no!
Is their dad the TV?
Watching Pepe Le Pew, reading Dr. Seuss, and playing with Mr. Potato Head.
That's perfect. That's epic. That's how it should be. That's how it should. So, what are your thoughts on this, like, recent cancel culture with Mr. Potato Head, Pepe Le Pew, and now Pierce, who's been controversial for the last I don't know how many years, and all of a sudden now he's being canceled because he talked about Meghan Markle, who's like oppressed.
Oh, I didn't watch the Meghan Markle thing.
Neither did I. I didn't
watch it either.
I was talking to my mom. My mom had an interesting perspective today, and it made sense. Like, it's like people policing people. It's not even governmental. It's not even like the government is banning things. It's like it's like society is policing society.
Yeah.
And like I find there's two things about it that I think, and it's kind of polar opposites. Like, in one sense, it's great that we're progressing and like we see things that are wrong with things like Pepe Le Pew. Like, that's not like the most consensual based type cartoon, but at the same point it's also a cartoon and they're animals and it's meant to be humorous. And so like on one side of things, like I appreciate that people are trying to step in the right direction, but what it's actually doing is pushing people in the opposite direction. And kind of like, I would have never thought twice about Mr. Potato Head. Now I'm like, yeah, Mr. Potato Head. I would have never thought about those Dr. Seuss books. I've never even seen those Dr. Seuss books, and now I'm curious. I want to see what's in them. Like, now I can't. So the other part of it is like, you're erasing history. So what are we to compare to? Right? So like, if we erase the shitty stuff that's happened in the past, how are we to learn from anything going forward? Like, how is it not to repeat itself should it ever come up again? We can't look back and be like, oh no, Dr. Seuss already did that, so probably let's not write a book like that. You know what I mean? So
you can't censor sorry to cut you off, right? I'll let you continue. Go on.
No, go ahead. I was done.
I'm so sorry. It's one thing, like, we cannot control everything children are going to be exposed to. You can try to minimize it as much as you can. But then at the end of the day, when you point certain things out, it just makes it worse, because you're making them aware of the certain behaviors, but in a way where you're trying. I feel like it's the adults that are highlighting these negative. Yeah, bring it to attention, but in a way where it's like children aren't thinking about it.
Yeah.
And the adults in the room are kind of the ones who have the mindset.
They're perversing. They're taking something that's innocuous and they're tainting it.
And they're tainting it. And it's like no one's even thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think, even as a kid, like I used this example with someone before where I said, I watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid, a show based off fighting. Characters solve their problems with fighting. I did not give a crap about. I did not grow up thinking that I needed to solve my problems with fighting. Neither did other children watching the show. I just cared about Kamehameha. That's all I cared about. Yeah. Right. So the problem is that it's the adults in the room who are trying to protect children, which I am like, this is very disingenuous, because where was this concern for children's well-being way before? But then all of a sudden, again, it goes back to what you were saying. It's just people policing people. It's stroking egos for the sake of stroking egos.
Do that again.
Stroking egos.
It's like a race to see who could be more progressive, and it's all about optics. And people are now doing like wonderful, lovely things for other people, but they're videotaping it and posting it all over TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. And it's like, why can't you do those things without needing the praise and the likes and the comments and the, you know what I mean? Like it's all
disingenuous.
Yeah, exactly. It's to see who can out progressive the next progressive.
Yeah.
So and the funny thing is like I don't know this for a fact, but I can almost put my money on it that a lot of the people that are policing these things don't even have children.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you saw, Roya, that whole discussion where the girl said, I just didn't care, whatever, but whatever. She cared enough to comment, whatever. But
I did see that, yeah. I'm staying away from those posts right now.
I actually have learned my lesson. I learned something from Tyse the other way. But anyway, I just, for me, I try to understand why this is even news to begin with. Like, why is Pepe Le Pew even news to begin with? Why? And it's just, there are so many things that are of concern, but for some reason, canceling Pepe Le Pew is the biggest concern right now. So it's like, the question is, do you think that it's a distraction? Tyse asked me this earlier. Do you think it's a distraction from what's really going on? Because why are we concerned about Pepe Le Pew?
Yeah, but it's also because
who even watches it anymore?
Nobody watches it because apparently Space Jam is coming out. But this is the thing, like what people will follow whatever the media pumps out there and whatever they make trending and whatever they make, I think it's always a distraction. It's always like, just like, let's bring our attention here and not focus on the real issues, like the dying children all over the world and the hungry and the poor and the
human sex trafficking.
Yeah, sex trafficking.
Child sex trafficking.
Yeah,
let's worry about those kids and not the kids that are sitting down in front of a cartoon.
Yeah, it's all about priorities.
I think it's just a way to, I think a distraction is a good way to put it, but it's like a way to remain cognitively dissonant from the real issues at hand. And it's like, people always need something, generationally speaking. Like, I think my generation is the only generation that really like scathed by without having like big uproar, like uprisings against something, right? Like my mom's generation had to fight to, well, maybe not her generation. I don't even know the history of it, to be honest. But like, there was like the fight to vote and equal rights. And like, when I was a kid, like gay rights was a big deal. But that kind of all like all that stuff is in line now, legally speaking. And like
everybody got what they want.
Based on our government, there is nothing to put in place to prevent anybody from, and I'm speaking Canada, and I don't know what's going on in the States because I'm turning a blind eye at this point. But like, there's nothing in our laws as Canadians that prevents anybody from doing anything. Societally speaking, yes, there's stuff happening. There's people are, there's still racism. There's still sexism. There's still you know, homophobia and all that stuff. It's there, but there's nothing that we can do. But it's like, okay, I understand why people are targeting children. They're trying to target children because you get them while they're young, and build them in a way that when they become adults, that the world becomes more utopian. But that's such a fantasy world that people are like trying to create for themselves. There's no utopia. There's not some planet where everybody gets along and has the same ideals. And like, North America is a massive melting pot of cultures, so there's culture clash happening, and like, especially in North America, no one's going to agree on everything, because some people came from Saudi Arabia, some people came from Iran, some people came from Africa, Jamaica, Asia, like all over the world, people come here and they bring their ideals with them, and so we're not all going to get along. There's just no way. It's not possible. So I don't know what the goal is, like targeting children to create some utopia that doesn't exist, but it's silly.
You know who else did that? Hitler did that with his Hitler Youth. And that's what's so crazy, is that nobody really realizes that they become the monsters that they really hate in doing so. You know, and it's, I understand getting children while they're young, but again, it's like, let children be children. Stop getting in the, children are not born racist. Children aren't born sexist. You know, cartoons don't raise children. Television does not raise children. The parents do. Whoever's in the house, the adults in the household do. And
I want to switch gears real quick. So there was a post that I came across on Facebook, and the post was, America can accept a transsexual who has changed their whole identity and sex, but can't accept a felon who has changed their lifestyle. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, okay, like, there's some truth in that for sure. And I don't know that all Americans can accept either, but I can see why someone might think that way, because the transsexual person didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do something that was harmful to other people and then have to change because of it. They did something to themselves because they didn't feel comfortable in their own body, whatever. And then the felon has done something. They have broken some sort of law that has either robbed somebody or killed somebody or whatever the case is. So from that, it's like, it's hard to believe someone might change from that. So I could see why someone might not accept someone who's changed their lifestyle, but so I don't think the two can be compared. Like, it's not two things, that it's apples and oranges, right? You can't compare a transsexual to a felon. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think the person who was writing that was focusing on what they think a transsexual is now, and what a felon was before. Yeah. So they most likely probably have a bias to accepting a felon who has changed their lifestyle. Yeah. Because they're probably focusing on what they think.
Well, to say that, I mean, not everybody accepts a felon. Everybody has a judging nature in them naturally. When you're a felon, you're like, oh, your radar goes up, your red flags pop up. Yeah. But I think a lot of people have an issue with. It's not that they don't accept transsexuals or they don't accept felons. I think it's what they don't accept is the agenda and pushing their ideologies on people. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they're really pushing these transgenders and transsexuals and drag queens and all these sorts of things into the classrooms and educating our children about things that, one, they don't need to be educated, you know, at that certain age about certain things. It's just not necessary, and it's not really the school system's job to do that. That's the parents' job. Also,
I actually had a conversation about that with another mom a couple days ago. She was saying that, like, in her kid's daycare, who's 3 years old in daycare, that they were teaching about, like, the flags. And she said to me, like, we were in some store and she saw the pride flag, and she was curious about what the pride flag is, so she explained it, but then she turned around and said, like, I'm a little disappointed that the daycare didn't teach pride flag in the class while they were teaching flags. And my mind was, first of all, no adult other than me and my partner better be talking to my 3-year-old about anything that's sexual identity. Doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily have to be sex, but it, like, marriage is between a man and a woman. I don't want to hear that from another adult to my kid. I don't want to hear that marriage is, but like, this is my responsibility as a 3-year-old to teach it as an age appropriate thing. And I don't trust other adults to do that. But secondly, it was like, okay, but the pride flag isn't a flag that is tied to a country.
Yeah.
The class was teaching country flags, so
Yeah.
it's not even just like, why is that even being discussed? And like, I don't know, the whole transsexual thing, like I get it. Like I understand how someone could feel like they weren't born into the right role, so to speak, because let's face it, like speaking as a mother, I never felt my gender role until I became a mother. I didn't see it. I never felt oppressed. I never felt put into a specific role. I never felt like I had to fulfill something because I lived for myself. I was selfish. I could do whatever the hell I wanted, whenever I wanted. I could work at whatever job I wanted. I could go to school however many times I wanted. Nothing was holding me back as a woman. Then I had kids. And there's something biological about having children where it's like the cries, it hits differently with me than it does my partner. That's biologically speaking. And some people might argue that that's not the case, but there's like science behind it. So the way that I care for my kids, nobody else can care for them the way that a mother cares for their daughter or their son or whatever.
Yeah.
So where am I going with this? I don't know. So as a mom now, I feel like because I have 2 children to provide for, now I have to make sure the dishes are done.
Yeah.
Now I have to make sure that the floor is swept so they can walk on a floor and not get their feet dirty. Now I have to make sure that there's food on the table at 5:30 at night, right?
Yeah.
And these things have all fallen on me because my partner's still working, because I'm on mat leave, because, and now suddenly I'm feeling like, well, what the fuck? I'm a woman, and this is because I'm a woman. Like, and I can't decipher whether it's because this shit's been thrown in my face over and over and over and over again. Would I have felt that way 10 years ago when it wasn't being presented to me all the time? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But like, I never really felt my gender role until I had a child.
Wow, that's a good perspective.
So this is like the last week, TikTok's ruining my life, like just straight up. Like there's way too much information about everything, and it's just like just constantly smacking me in the face with this stuff. But like, so this is the thing I've been thinking about is like, is it because I'm a woman? Is it because I'm a mother? Is it just because that's our circumstances? Like, I don't know. And yeah, it's a different thing. So and I as a person have always, like, I never wanted kids for that reason, because I saw it go on around me. And now that I'm in it, I don't know if I wouldn't call it oppression, because I don't feel oppressed by it, but I definitely feel like
It's
there's more responsibility on the mother than there is on the father.
Yeah.
And there's more expectations on the mother than there is on the father from other people.
Right.
Which I personally don't care what other people's expectations of me are, for the most part. But yeah, it's just like an interesting thing to think about. So having said that, I never wanted children for that reason. And now that I have them, I'm starting to see like gender roles that I every bone in my body just like repels against. Like
Right.
I hate cooking. I hate cooking so much, and I have to do it every single day now. And like, so I can understand how someone would feel those societal pressures, which I never did feel before, and that's me. And I know that other people are different. So there's people are feeling these societal pressures to be a specific way, depending on how you grew up. Like my parents never put that shit on me, but like other people's parents maybe did. And so I could see how that person might be like, no, screw you. So based on your description of what a man and a woman is, then I'm a man. You know what I mean? So I get where the confusion happens, and it's maybe not even confusion. Maybe that's the wrong way to describe it, but like the resistance against what society deems as roles and responsibilities of a woman and a man. Like I totally see it very, very clearly. So I get it about being transgender and wanting to not fulfill some role that other people are expecting of me. And if that's the only way people know how to express it, then so be it. Like in my day, it was like, I'm a tomboy. Right. It wasn't, I'm an actual boy. It was, I'm a tomboy.
Yeah.
And I went through a phase like that. And it's like, I'm glad that all this stuff wasn't around back then, because it might have led my thinking down a path that it didn't need to go down.
I think with Well, going back to the thing, like I think even when society defines a felon, now everything is like deemed as felon. Like I mean, there's people going to jail and being charged just for even carrying weed, and all of a sudden they deem them as a felon. Um, so I think what's happening is a lot of words, meanings, and definitions um, have been
They're being
really
used interchangeably.
Bastardized.
yeah, exactly.
And bastardized.
Yeah. So what happens now is like people start to have this understanding of what words they've come up with the new definitions of what words mean, and so that's why there is that
Like
language.
racism.
Yeah. Well, it's
Cool.
so I mean to say that people don't accept trans what was it? People don't accept trans, but they accept felons or whatever. Like that's not necessarily true because like if it was a trans person who has a history of a felony, or maybe they've had charges, or maybe they're sex um, uh, what is it a sex offender or whatever, they would be looked at the same way as maybe a former or someone who's had a felony charge. And like you said, it is apples and oranges. You're like really comparing two things that are completely.
And I think there's like a bit of a danger if you're going to compare those two things, because a lifestyle choice around, what your gender is or what your sex is,
Sexuality, yeah.
and anything that that's related to that has nothing to do with like a criminal act.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very, very. I don't like that comparison.
Mhm.
Not even a tiny bit.
You know what's happening? So they have this group, because we know of like that group of that what's his name, George Soros funds, the one that the pedophilia one, the boys love
Rambla.
Yes. So there's them, and then there's also the new movement, which is weird, MAPS, where they're basically these groups of people who love young children and who are open about it.
Yeah.
And they have found their way they're trying to find a way to intermingle with the gay community. And that's where I understand where that comparison may come from because of people like that. And when they associate sexuality with criminal activity based off the actions of people who are MAPS. And it's unfortunate because obviously those are two distinct things. But sexuality gets criminalized because of people like that.
Yeah.
That's just what I've seen.
No, that makes sense. I can totally see that.
Yeah, I don't. Sorry.
No. It's just something that I
understand completely what you're saying, but in terms of that particular comparison,
no,
it's not about comparing it. What they're saying is people are willing to accept X, but they're not willing to accept Y. But you can't compare people's willingness to accept something that aren't even comparable. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Like that whole thing, like about trying to work their way into the LGBT, like
that's what I'm talking about.
Acronym or whatever.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking about.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I
it's hijacking.
And I've talked to several of my gay friends about this whole idea of like the T being in there as well, because really I find that I have a couple of gay friends who repel against the idea, not necessarily of trans people, but that they should be included into the sexuality portion, because that's really, it's based on, it started as a sexuality preference, and then it morphed into something else.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's not my community. Like I'm an ally for sure to the LGBT, whatever, but it's not my community to be able to say who should and shouldn't be allowed into it. Obviously, yeah. I think I would say like if you asked anybody that's part of that community already, they would be absolutely disgusted to find out that that type of person is trying to work their way in and call it a sexuality.
Yeah, it's pedophilia as a sexuality. Those group of people. I'll send you a couple of video links of a transgender YouTuber by the name of Blair White, because she explains it way better than either one of us could. But definitely, she touches on that, because unfortunately, it's just that's what's happening.
She's a conservative trans.
She's a conservative transgender woman, which is a very weird amalgamation in of itself.
Yeah.
But
well, and
not to convince you.
I would love no, I would love to learn more about that.
Yeah.
And I'm not actively involved in like the LGBT community the way that I used to be, because the people that I was an ally to have kind of pulled away from that community for reasons similar, and I don't think it has anything to do with pedophilia that they pulled away, but like just more of like growing up and realizing everybody has got what they need now, and it's kind of like, okay, let's move on. We don't need to focus so much on this identity politics stuff, and just kind of focus on being me and who I am, right? So, but I'm sorry to love you guys and leave you guys, but my kid is screaming and it's hitting hard. I can't take it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us and giving us your perspective.
Send me that link so I can check it out. Maybe next time you guys are on, I can hop on and talk about it.
For sure.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
No
Thanks
problem.
for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.
If anybody else wants to join us, you're welcome to. Just look at the comments. There's the link there, or just send us a message. We'll have you jump on. I think it's good that we're really touching on these things, because it's really good to hear from different perspectives. I think my issue is we're like what we said earlier is focusing on all of the things that are just not that deep. They're just not that serious. It just does not need this much energy or attention. And with that being said, I know I didn't watch the interview with Oprah and the Meghan Markle thing, just because I already know where I stand with myself when it comes to privileged celebrities who can sit here and tell people that they're oppressed. And I'm not denying Meghan Markle's reality or her experience or her truth, but I just find it very interesting that now that you want to talk about it in where we are right now with the climate, because she's already had her first child, no? Or
yeah, she did. She already did.
Yeah. So like, why are we now talking about this? Why is this now becoming the highlight of the conversation? So there's that. And then there's the whole Pierce Morgan. Is it Pierce Morgan? Yeah, I always get Pierce Brosnan and Pierce Morgan mixed together. I'm not racist towards UK people. Come on. So I even find that headline has been interesting, because now the cancel culture has canceled him because he's talked about Meghan Markle allegedly 41,000 times. One, who's counting 41,000? Where do you get that number? Like, did somebody sit here and watch every episode, every show that this man has done and just counted 41,000 times? Like, where are you coming? How are you measuring this stupidity? Number one. Number two, Pierce has been a very controversial figure on social media and in the media as a whole. Why are we now all of a sudden canceling him? Why is this now an issue? So does that mean we're going to start canceling what's his face, the controversial radio jockey guy? Howard Stern. Are we going to cancel him? Or are we going to cancel Ellen DeGeneres for the way she treats her staff and her love of children? Are we going to cancel those people too? Or are we going to cancel, how far are we willing to go with this? Like, where
does it start?
Where does it start and where does it stop?
End?
Yeah. Like, we can sit here and cancel, like, even Matt TV. So should we now cancel Matt TV for all their, racial undertone jokes? And, when they used to make fun of Michael Jackson, and they used to make fun of Oprah, and they used to make fun of, like, all kinds of different skits. And I grew up. What?
That were hilarious.
They were hilarious, but that show wouldn't sustain or see the light of day in today's time. And we grew up watching Matt TV, and it was very what I find interesting is anything that I've ever watched, I've never internalized and kind of made it of my own character or personality.
I feel like
if that makes sense.
I feel like it's this weird craving for wanting a struggle.
Yeah.
Like wanting a purpose, wanting a movement.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it. Like it's one of the roots, but I feel like it's just this craving of I have to feel oppressed.
Yeah.
somehow.
And I want you to feel oppressed
and
too.
I want you to
so
feel
we can be
oppressed.
oppressed together, and we can skip.
I need people to understand how offended I am by something, and I don't understand where it's coming from. I'm trying to, at least, no, I'm not trying to understand because I just don't care.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't care.
I don't care, but I do care. And it's just, at this point, it feels very nonsensical because it's like, where are your priorities if right now all you're thinking about is, you know, and some of these things I don't even think are canceling per se. It's just they're using it, holding someone accountable. And it's people policing people. It's people policing people. And like I said, some of you can't even hold yourselves accountable for regular shit.
Hold yourselves accountable first, and then
hold everybody else.
And even that, just be an example of self-accountability, and people will see that. People will be drawn to that.
Because if you have no job and you're going to start preaching about Gina Carano, who had a job, like, oh yeah, she deserves to lose her job because she made whatever kind of comparison. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, you can feel what you want to feel, but just
fuck your feelings
and mind your business and keep moving. She has a job, but you don't.
Yeah.
She has to lose her job because you felt some type of way.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
People are too busy.
It's too busy being just, it's coming to a point where it's just like, again, feel how you want to feel. I'm not telling you not to feel something.
But don't push your ideologies. Don't, you know, like, it's like gone are the days where you can have an opinion about anything. And if you have an opinion on something that the general public may disagree with, it's like all of a sudden you're categorized as some ism, some phobist of something, and it's just like,
it's tiring, guys. It really is tiring. I really don't even want to express how frustrating it feels.
Yeah.
Especially the person that I am now. And you know, I'm pretty sure I look crazy to some of my friends where I'm speaking out and, you know, saying things that I'm saying. But at this point, I just don't even care because I'm not going to sit here or try to go through everyday life being told that I'm something that I'm not.
Yeah.
And also, you know, have to always fall in line with the narrative that I, as this person, I as a woman have to do this.
Yeah.
I as a Black woman, I have to fall in line with this.
Yeah.
I, as a Black person, have to always buy from Black businesses. You see, when I did that, I got a really jacked up watch.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to buy from businesses because they're Black. I'm going to buy from them because they're good businesses and they're good quality shit.
Right.
And that's just the fact of the matter.
Well, do you remember when they had that whole like Blackout Tuesday thing? Like when I first
nobody understood that.
Yeah, and people just follow. They just like follow.
And I was guilty too, because at first I was one of the people who was like, I didn't understand what this black square meant, so I put it up and then I took it down. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
That must spell sense.
That doesn't make no sense. But then even I was like, listen, the person that I was, especially during the summertime, I was like, no, this is a time for you guys to speak up. This is a time for people to speak up, and Black people, you need to speak up. And like, I didn't know what I was doing. I think I was just following a trend.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was saying. I had absolutely I felt like I had to hate, you know, Donald Trump. I had to hate this. And I'm like, I don't even care about Donald Trump. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's not my president. I'm Canadian. The fudge.
Yeah.
You know, it got, and especially with Canadians, I'm going off topic here, but especially with Canadians, we're obsessed with American media because we're so consumed by it. We get distracted by American media by not paying attention to what's going on in our own country and how docile we are as Canadians, and how just we are so lackadaisical with how we approach politics. It is ridiculous how we know nothing about politics. And look who we have in now.
And for me, it's the people who are just like, oh, I just do things because I just want to, you know, just get through the day and just, you know, I'm only worried about me. But I think it's like the moment we have that mentality, then we become victims of what's to come ahead. And I had this conversation today with a friend of mine. We were talking about, and to some extent, I agree. Like, you can put 10,000 people on the streets with signs and protest all you want, but the agenda is going to be seen through whether you like it or not. Because they're not going to just all of a sudden say, "Oh my God, guys, there's 10,000 people out here protesting. Let's retract everything. You know, fall back." Like, no, because that would just be like expecting like a a robber who robbed your house to come on, knock on your door the next day and say, "Here's your stuff back." It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
There you go.
They already started what they wanted to start, and they're going to see it through, and they're going to keep the gaslighting, keep the agenda, keep the train going, whether you like it or not. The only thing we can really do is continue to speak the truth. Because even now with social media, now if you speak the truth, you're being canceled, you're being shadow banned, you're being blocked, you're being censored.
People are unfriending me already, which is okay.
And that's fine. Like I always say, the Bible says, those who are for you will remain with you, and those who are not will forsake you. And it is what it is, because there's a time and reason and season for everybody. I'm
personally not about being I don't want to be a part of any kind of echo chamber of opinion.
Yeah.
I'd rather have differences of opinion, and that's fine with me.
And being respectful about it.
Being respectful about it.
Yeah.
I think that if people want to cancel Pepe Le Pew, that's okay. That's fine, but understand your priorities. That's what I'm talking about.
Like, how does it affect us? Like, you canceling it, who is it affecting?
It's about
like as if like there's nothing else for the children to watch.
It's about the children, when really y'all never gave a shit about the children to begin with, because you know what, Tyse and I will post things after things about what's going on with children around the globe, and you guys don't care.
Yeah,
it's cricket.
But you guys will post about a missing child for an Amber
Alert. You'll just repost it. That's what you're doing. But we're telling you about how so many children go missing a year in Canada. Aboriginal women go missing a year in Canada. Nobody says a goddamn word.
And let's worry about Pepe Le Pew.
But let's worry about Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
For real. Clean your own house before you start cleaning the house of other people, especially of society.
Yeah.
Make sure your own house is clean before you start passing judgment upon other people.
Yeah.
Because if you feel like you have some sort of moral superiority over me because I say I don't give a crap about Pepe Le Pew, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. And it gets to the point where I don't even care. Like now, and the more posts I see that make sense, like the more I repost, and I'm just like, I don't really care. Like I had somebody say, "Oh, so because I don't agree with this, therefore I'm stupid." I'm like, if you felt attacked, then that's on you.
That's
and they unfollowed me. Like,
there's nothing, and you know what? I'm starting to get into it. You know, it's really hard for me because every time I see certain things, I'm just getting irritated, and I'm really trying my best to just not really have any sort of thorough responses anymore because nobody's listening.
No.
Nobody's listening. I could break down things to a T and nobody will ever listen to anything I have to say because it'll give me the same sort of media jargon that they always heard about their person that they hate at the moment. Yeah. And I'm sick of it, to be honest with you. I'm sick of it. There's no nuance in anything that people have to say. There's no nuance in how people think at all.
Yeah.
It's the same. And that's how I used to think. We both came from the same pot. Crab bucket. We came from there. So why it blows my mind that nobody wants to take a look and say we came from the same bucket you came from. So obviously we're just switching. We're not switching, but we're just realizing things.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can't even come to the conclusion that the person that you possibly have loved all your life could possibly be the most hated, evil person ever to have existed.
Yeah.
That possibility can't even enter your mind, then you are a lost cause.
Yeah.
And you can stay there. That's fine. And if they're not even evil at all, then by far, fine, we're wrong. But what the hell? Open your mind to the fact that people who you think are good are probably not good. Yeah. That's just the fact of the matter. Because at this point, fiction is crazier is crazier than movies.
That's why I say those who they're what do I always say?
Non-fiction.
Those
I said fiction is crazier than movies. I meant real life is was it stranger than fiction? Real life is stranger than fiction. Yeah. Wow, fiction is stranger than.
And sometimes those you think are not, and those who are not are.
Wow, I was in the moment.
Right?
But it's crazy.
Because for the longest time, I thought like I was against Trump only because of what I kept on hearing. All my friends were like against him. So I again, not like subconsciously, I was just following the movement. But until it clicked, I was just like, oh my gosh. And I even thought today, like, what if all of this was really like a big distraction? What if all of this, like the left wing and the right wing, including Trump, because he's really not a political figure, if you will.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what if that was even like, that crossed my mind, like, what if that's just a distraction to give people a sense of hope and faith, just to like keep people like hanging on a thread.
Yeah.
You know?
That would break people completely.
It would. I think it would really like, because I think people are just holding on to faith. And we have a special guest on Friday. Like, I'm really excited to have her on the show. Bevelyn Bietti. She's remarkable. So the first time I ever saw Bevelin and Edme is in a video that they did not years ago, a while back. It was them like being at an airport and they had masks and it was just the same. At that time, I didn't know who she was. I just thought it was just one of those videos that went viral. But I'm going to play a really quick video of the person we're going to be interviewing on Friday.
Be very, just a warning, it could be very triggering to people. And just so you're aware, you don't have to agree with anything. Just know it's something that's very triggering to people.
I find it interesting. They're not even really trying.
They're not trying.
They're really not trying.
They're letting her go on to spray it and then come on, honey. No, honey.
Yeah.
It's
come on, let's go. You can't have this toy today.
Oh, you see, but
ooh,
did they?
He fell on his face.
Oh.
Stop her. Look at this fool. Why don't you stop her? Why don't you move? Keep it moving. She's like, get your keys. Like, they're not mine. They're probably keys for the handcuffs, and the cop probably dropped when you fell. Look at the cop. He's just walking by, like.
They really don't give a damn.
Look, see. Why are you arresting her? She's just standing by. That's Edme, by the way.
Yes.
So those two, like, are really on a movement together to really preach the message. Look at this one. If he's so pro-mask, why doesn't he have it fully on his face? Anyways, so pretty intense, huh? That's pretty intense. So that was like, I think, the second video I discovered of hers.
Yes.
And I think when I watched that video, like, I felt every emotion, every, like, honestly, like, it was just like, it was so powerful. It was so moving. And I think I was like sharing with a whole bunch of people. I think I sent it to you as well, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah. And ever since that video, I really just like sat on her channel for like quite some time and just watching like her videos, her lives, really just studying her perspective and her movement, her and Edme. And she's got quite the testimony too. Like, she's got a great story. Hopefully Friday we can talk about that and she can share a little bit about that. But for those of you who are not familiar with Bevelin, you guys can look her up on YouTube. like, what are your thoughts? Like, I know you've watched some of her videos.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on her movement and her perspective? And has it changed from when you first saw this until now? Or like, what's like, where are you, what are your thoughts?
I could never really be as polarizing. Or let me put it this way, it's yet.
Yeah.
I don't think I have the gall to be that polarizing.
Yeah.
So there's that, how I feel about it.
And speaking of polarizing, like having the cojones to do what she
it takes
she's
a
walked
certain
through
amount of
Skid Row.
Yeah.
Her and Edme, like two women.
That
walking through Skid Row of downtown LA.
Yeah. And that video was
like, you could tell like they're just covered with like protection, spiritual energy.
Yeah.
Like the message needs to get across.
Yeah.
And it's like they're so anointed. I just find that every time I watch them.
At the base of what I see is Christianity.
Yeah.
And I don't see political view.
Mm-hmm.
And I again, like I can't even grasp being like feeling all of that, because I it's very triggering. Mm-hmm. And I'm still thinking about living in the world that I'm living in. I'm like, I'm scared to be that polarizing because of things like cancel culture.
Yeah.
And do I agree? I'm like, I have my own sentiments about Black Lives Matter, the organization. So would I have been one of those persons screaming F you, F you? No, I would have just probably kept walking. Yeah. Because I really wouldn't have cared. Whether I agreed with Black Lives Matter or not, me standing there isn't going to do anything. Yeah. It's just not. So it's.
But I think the mission is not necessarily that we can't do anything, because I think, okay, coming from the left, subconsciously being left, and then having that aha moment, and then, you know, moving more to the right. Mm-hmm. I think it's videos like that that make you want to do more research, or it
makes you want to do more research.
Especially if you're Black and you see another Black person standing against something that majority of Black people would be standing up for, and you're just like, huh, well, why is this Black person not for it?
And my revelation came before this video, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but again,
mine too, for sure.
But again, it makes you want to even read more about it and see like, why is this Black person so highly against it? And then I look at certain videos of like police officers who are in the midst of those protests, and they hear like a lot of the things that are coming from white people in those protests. You know, the white people who are sitting there, like when there's the Black person who's trying to have a conversation with the Black cop, and the Black person be like, listen, what do you, they're having a calm conversation. What do you think about this? Like, how do you feel about this? Yeah. And then all of a sudden a white person will come in, or whoever who is not Black will come in and be like, don't talk to them. Right. And just disrupt the entirety of the movement of the conversation. Yeah. You know, and that to me wasn't, when I saw that to me was like, okay, I see what's going on with this organization, because it's judging from, hey, we already done our research about who's even one of the leaders of it. There's that, you know, and also considering how, what was it, the family of, who was it that's suing Black Lives Matter for like $20 million. I forget which, I don't know if it's Michael Brown. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. But that they're suing, you know, Black Lives Matter because they basically, you know, were fundraising money. And mind you, the head of the fundraising department is a lady who, you know, attempted to bomb the Capitol. Yeah. Who's a white woman. So it makes
Black Lives Matter, the whole organization, is funded by a white man. And then the Black Lives Matter movement will tell you, like, you can't talk about Black issues because you're white.
It makes me when I see things like, you know, a white person telling me not to talk to a police officers haven't done me wrong throughout my life personally. Yeah. You know, could I say the same? I have a police officer in my family, right? And I have someone who works in corrections, who's a correctional officer. Yeah. So, you know, I can't sit here and be like, I can't, with my logic, can say all cops are bad. Yeah. It's hard.
Are there bad cops? Yeah.
Are there bad cops? But
there's also lots of bad people in every area.
In every area. And like, we have to use logic, because you say one bad apple spoils the bunch. I'm like, you can use that logic all you want to, but it doesn't solve your problem of trying to get to the root of the issues, right? It doesn't solve any issues. But you know, someone like Bevelin, like it takes a lot of, and May, it takes a lot of grit to do what they're doing, and I do respect it. Could I possibly be doing that? Personally.
Well, and that's not
my calling.
Yeah,
that's just not my calling.
She's clearly called to do what she's doing. Like this woman has been charged, arrested, shot, stabbed, and still made it through. Like she's clearly set out for a mission that's appointed to her and Edme to do what they do, and they stand in front of the Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, and they do what they do. And it takes a lot of guts and courage, but you can clearly see that they are appointed by God to run this mission. Whether you believe in God or not, that's neither here or there. But you can see it through their character, through their actions, through their word, through their message. It seems like every time I watch that video, it's like it makes me want to become born again every time I watch their video.
When she talks about certain things, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
It's spot on. You can't argue with it.
I can't.
Because it's so factual that you just can't even argue.
There's things that are very factual where I'm like, I actually can't see any really argument with that. And I'm like, and you can't even look at it as really opinion with a lot of things that she does talk about. Yeah. And reference to, like, she has specific examples with X, Y, and Z. Yeah. But, you know, we'll talk about it on Friday, at least some of it. But, you know, I don't really... I disagree with her way of doing things. That's not up to me. It's not going to affect her in any type of way, right? But
she's still going to do what she's going to do.
And a lot of what she talks about does speak to me, so I can't really like sit there and be like.
And you don't even have to be a believer.
No,
you just your spirit feels convicted.
Yeah, you feel very convinced of the things she's saying. You're like, oh, I can understand where you're coming from.
I think it's because too people have like. We always talk about, like, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. So there's people who have really become so comfortable in bad things and they were calling it good that now she's really just kind of flashing a light. Like she's shedding light on the things that, like, well, this is hypocritical. This doesn't make sense. This contradicts this. This contradicts that. Yeah. You know, how you do one thing is how you do everything. You know, just be consistent. You know what I mean?
It's be consistent, be respectful, and mind your business. That's my philosophy.
Mind your business.
It really should just be, because as Roya said, that in law, people got what they wanted. Yeah. You know, and at the end of the day, there are going to be discriminatory people. Yeah. But you cannot have discriminatory practices. And whatever loopholes people are finding in establishments, then you're in your right to address them. Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's nothing in law that says that people can't do the things that they're doing. Yeah. It's just that is just the fact of the matter. Yeah. And I hear things of, like, you know, people are trying to, and I even asked a question of someone saying, you know, you seem to be you have a disdain for Republicans. And I even gave a whole history on Republicans and who they were. They just don't, and you know, and in American history, but, you know, it's just, and it's crazy because people think, like, parties can change, and I'm like, they can change their tactics, but their roots are generally the same. So there's such an amalgamation of issues. Yeah, it's hard to tackle what the root of everything is. Yeah, but I think what it is just like the awake versus the non-awake.
Well, I'm really excited about Friday because I think it's going to be a great conversation. I'm really glad to have both of them on this segment to really, like, just talk. And I really want them to give the opportunity to educate people, right? Because I think her approach, a lot of people don't agree with her approach. No. And there are people who do, right? Yeah. And there are people who just don't care or whatever the case is. But I think it's so important that we just have a conversation, just really understand, because I have a lot of questions. Like, I want to understand what her definition of like Christians versus, you know, counterfeit Christians. Because there are people who, you know, claim to be Christians and claim to be this and claim to be that, but don't necessarily practice it. You know, so what does that look like, and what makes a Christian a Christian? Like, there's so many questions I want to ask because I think it's so important that we educate people, because I think at some point along the way, there was a very strong Christian movement back in maybe between 2003 and 2009, I felt that there was like a big Christian movement, right? Where it was like, you know, the music and the movies, like the Tyler Perry movement, and you know, there was that era where like Christianity was really big and it was like celebrated, and then.
But I think it was being profited off of.
Oh,
like,
for sure,
yeah.
for sure, and that's another question.
Yeah.
Like that's another thing, and I think, I know that's something that she talks about a lot is churches who really use this opportunity to capitalize on situations. And I think that's why a lot of people fear, you know, not fear, but they have this taste about being Christians or being spiritual, because they automatically just, you know, that side of the Christianity has been so tainted that people are just so turned off.
Yeah.
Right.
Like myself.
Yeah, like yourself, right? But I think if people really focus on their relationship with God one-on-one versus you and God and then the entire congregation, that's where things get manipulated and misconstrued. Because I had that same experience being born again, where I was really on fire for God and I was really like really there, right? And I felt like I found my place where I'm amongst like-minded people. But then as I became more involved in the church and they've appointed me positions and all these things, I started to realize that their mission was to really have a relationship between you and God, and their involvement in that relationship. Like pray out loud, confess, you know, like say it, you know what I mean? It's just like, well, why am I doing that? Like that's none of your business. Why is it that you know my business but I don't know yours?
Yeah, the church is messy.
Yeah, it can get very messy, and that's what can turn people off. I think the focus should be more so on your spiritual journey, self, with your higher being, God, in this particular topic situation. And really just focus on that one-on-one relationship. And that way, once you have that close relationship, then you're able to kind of really put a very strong parameter around that relationship and protect. It's like any relationship, but let's say you and I are in a relationship.
Oh my God! So you're just gonna assume I'm offended right now. I'm kidding.
So like if you and I are in a relationship, and my thing is I'm a very private person, I don't want to broadcast and post it on social media.
Exactly.
That's just something that that's just me. If you're the opposite person who likes to flaunt that, because you're just like, yeah, look at me, I'm cute with my boyfriend, blah, 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 right? That's your thing. So if we can't find a common ground when it comes to that, it's going to already cause friction. Because now my perspective is by you doing that, you're opening the door, you're inviting people to come in and really kind of meddle with that relationship. People can get in your head, people can get in your ear, old exes might slide in the DMs, or people see now that you're happy and they want to like, you know, see what the hype is. You open yourself up to criticism and people to attack that relationship.
Just none of
right. But now if we spend time really like rooting our relationship into like something that's so strong and tight, and then at some point we share things together, it really makes us like us against the world sort of thing, right? And I like to practice that in my everyday life, not just in relationships, but with like career, with everything that I'm doing. Like I don't like to broadcast things. I'm generally a private person, period. It has nothing to do with anything. It's not like I'm trying to be something that I'm not. It has nothing to do with that, but simply more so that I'm protecting and preserving my energy so that you don't come and fuck it up.
That's, you know, what's funny is because this doesn't really have much of a point, but like that's why I don't tell people my moves until things are done. Yeah, until they're done. Because when people know what I'm about to do, their energy, they curse it, whether they subconsciously or consciously do it. Jealousy, envious. It's like the energy is there and it happens. Like, yo, why are you so happy during this pandemic? Because I'm goddamn happy. Like I did things for myself that I didn't think I would have done prior to the pandemic. You know, and it's just that's what it is. And some people don't understand having a relationship with self. A true relationship with self, not that that fake stuff of, you know, broadcasting your sense of your faith in yourself and your relationship with yourself. Because when you have a relationship with yourself, nobody else knows that. A true relationship with yourself. You know. Yeah, some people don't know how to have a relationship with themselves. Like I can spend time with myself, you know, just being engulfed in my work or in things that I want to do, and I'm good. Like I'm good with not having any friends. Like I have like a few, like a can on my hand. That's my circle.
and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Because the more friends you have, the more messy things get.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like spending time with, because I can just give, like, I can watch movies that I want to watch. I can just do all the things that I want to do with no distraction, with nobody to tell me anything otherwise. And I don't really care what your opinions are about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I really could give two shits, because there was life before you, there'll be life after you. You've done nothing for me to better me as a person. If you add no value to my life, then, like, why are you sticking around?
Yeah. And for me, I'm still kind of in the process of even figuring that out, to be honest. But at the same time, it's like, you know who's for you.
Yeah, you know, it's
you.
character. You know, you look at someone's character, and you'll never be mistaken.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna wrap things up, guys. Friday's gonna be our big day. Check out the post. We're gonna give you all the information and details about the interview, and we're looking forward to sitting down with Bevelyn and May. And if you guys have questions, please, send them to us. Or if you just want to jump on live and maybe ask a question in person or live, that's also an option too. Let us know, and we can definitely get you set up with that interview as well. So thank you guys for joining Alex and I on another episode of FYF. As we stream live on this new platform, and then we look forward to doing more episodes with you guys and have you guys part of our journey.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining. Take care.
Bye.
Peace. See you on Friday.